this CPU's running it. We'll see how well this even goes, and how many people we get on here. I want to make a change here.
110% organic.
And I don't know if it's going to freak out and knock me off. Virtue juice.
And there's no need for anyone to think that is unacceptable.
See, I'm already
We're
wondering
going to
if this
shut
is
them
going to
down
glitch.
and work with whoever it is to shut them down, and they should be prosecuted. You cannot intimidate members of Congress.
Why is that glitching?
Listening to the
I probably have way too many windows open too. I should probably go through and close them down. All right, let's just get into this here. Okay, welcome everybody back to SJG Perspective. Just kind of wanted to jump on, do a little bit of an impromptu stream tonight. And I have a couple good friends that I want to introduce here in 2 seconds to you that'll be partaking, and we're just going to bounce around and see what happens with everything. So until that time, until the time I introduce them, make sure that you guys also follow us on DLive. Follow me on DLive. Over at SJG Perspective on DLive, and then Parler is the other one I just put out there because it's a pretty decent site. And so, anyways, without further ado, I will switch over here. Excuse me. Dustin, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dustin Gold. I'm the producer of the Douglas Ducote Show, and I also have been following politics, reading history, studying the cabal since 2006 and 2008. At the age of 27, I was put on the top 20 nativist list by the Southern Poverty Law Center, and I wear that as a badge of honor. Super male vitality.
And then Rational Wrongthink. We haven't seen our Australian buddy in a while. Say hello, Rational.
Yeah, g'day guys. How's it going?
And,
good to be back on. It has been a while.
It has been a while, and I'm glad to see you're not under lockdown, man. You're under Australian or military enforced lockdown yet.
Yet, yeah, we're days away from it.
Yeah,
but, yes. So yeah, we can leave the house at the moment if we choose to, but that's not going to be going on for much longer. We've had, the pollies are ramping up their invective against people leaving their houses unnecessarily.
Yeah.
So it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. No, I know, and as we were talking about earlier today, or earlier right before we came on, this is getting to a point where it's fairly crazy, knowing that what we know about it now, and so switching back, Dustin will jump in on this because he's definitely very opinionated on this. I go back and forth, if I'm being honest. I go back and forth on waffling on how bad I think this thing is and how bad I think it isn't. I think the reaction from it is completely and totally and thoroughly being exploited by the deep state, the cabal, the left, whoever you want to call it. They're definitely exploiting this to the nth degree, and we're losing civil liberties by the moment, by the minute, it feels like. But I put up the video the other day of China, the riot in China where the people in Wuhan province were pushing back, and it's got like 1,500 views now. Like, it really kind of took off. But I found that very interesting that the people in China, after 3 months, in China, the most authoritarian, one of the most totalitarian regimes in the world. And those people finally were like, after 3 months of being locked down, or 2 months, we're like, F it. We don't care if you run us over with tanks. We're coming out of our houses, and we're gonna get back at it. So, Dustin.
Now you know why they weld their doors shut.
Yeah. They did. They welded their doors shut when they were there. It was insane. Dustin, did you watch that video?
No, you know what? Here's the whole thing with my opinion on anything that comes out of Iran or anything that comes out of China or any of this kind of stuff. I generally just ignore it and don't watch it because, as I've said on a stream with you before, I know that the United States government in 2012, under Barack Obama's National Defense Authorization Act, changed what was called the Smith-Mundt Act that came into play in 1948, the year after the CIA was founded. in 47, which made it illegal for the CIA to propagandize U.S. citizens on U.S. soil.
Right.
Even though they were doing it anyway through Operation Mockingbird and other things that are declassified now. In 2012, they now are legally allowed to do it. So in this country, we have Voice of America all over the world. We run Radio Free Asia, Radio Free Europe. These are all U.S. propaganda, CIA-run media organizations. And now people like Breitbart, Gateway Pundit, the president himself actually quote those as sources. So I ignore a lot of that because I know it's U.S. propaganda. Now, the cases with what we saw a few months back in Iran, we were pumping stuff onto Twitter from Iraqi TV. The United States government took over Iraqi TV when we invaded Iraq. So anything that was coming out of Iran claiming it was Iraqi TV, I didn't trust. There was also Iranian TV, which we're supposed to believe Iran and Saudi Arabia are mortal enemies, yet Saudi Arabia owns a large chunk of Iran TV. And then in China itself, a lot of the videos you're seeing come out are actually through Radio Free Europe, which is owned by the CIA and the State Department through what they have called the GEC, the Global Engagement Center. So I don't trust any of that stuff I see. It could be real, but whatever they're saying, it could be spun. It's a different narrative. I just don't trust our government. I fear them more than anything else on planet Earth. I fear them more than China, more than Iran, North Korea, or anyone else.
So where do you get your news? I mean, are you just one that's taking it from, kind of what I've always said, I guess it was kind of what I do too, because I'm pretty much right there with you, but do you just take your news sources from several different sources and piece it together what you think really is going on? Or when you're trying to get an idea of where the what the reality is?
Yeah. Look, what I've always tried to do, look in the case of the coronavirus stuff,
because you send me Gateway Pundit stuff sometimes in our text.
Yeah, I'll send Gateway Pundit stuff because it's kind of like Drudge, just they elongate the article instead of just a headline. But I don't use that necessarily as fact. What I'll do if I see an article and it has information in it, for instance, in this case with coronavirus, I'll go to the CDC numbers, the WHO numbers, and the Johns Hopkins numbers because we're told. No, but I'm not. Listen.
Okay.
What I was going to say, I've told people straight out when we started covering this on the Douglas Ducote Show 3 weeks ago, I do not trust WHO, the CDC, or Johns Hopkins. But that's the baseline numbers that we have to work with. None of us are walking around the world with a clicker counting how many people have coronavirus. So, but what I tell the audience all the time is, skew these numbers, whether it be that or whether it be FBI crime data, based on your trust factor with the government and those organizations. But right now, what we're told is that's what the president is using. So you have to listen to the president's words, and then also on any issue, separate the signal from the noise. Look at what he says, and then look at the action, and then look at what the politicians are doing. That's the best way you can analyze what's going on, is you watch them and you watch their votes and go to the DOJ website and see the arrests that they are or are not making. And to me, that's more valuable. So I'll use articles to see what the media is trying to spin at the time and then try to do research myself to go back and see who these people are. In the case of Bill Barr, for instance, when he was announced as a new AG, all I did was pull the guy's bio, go back, read old articles about him, find out who he was, and said, this dude was CIA the second he got out of college. This guy was a cover-up man for the CIA. He advised George H.W. Bush to pardon all the Iran-Contra criminals. Bill Barr is not going to arrest anyone. And look where we are today. I was called a liar and an idiot, and I hate Trump because I'm against Bill Barr. Well, has Bill Barr made a bunch of arrests? No.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Rational, what are you, when you're hearing what Dustin's talking about, you being over in Australia?
I guess I'm kind of similar. I don't trust anybody. I don't trust what the government says. I don't trust what the media says. So, you look at, I guess I've always had a theory that I've adhered to. If your friends and your enemies are both saying the same thing, then it's reasonable to believe that they're discussing a fact. They're going to lie about that fact, but you can be reasonably certain that the fact that they're discussing is a fact. So, for example, when it comes to the coronavirus, there aren't too many voices out there saying there is no coronavirus. The Chinese, Iran, United States, United Kingdom, right across Europe, everybody seems to be all on board with the fact that this thing does exist. So you go, okay, so there's one thing that we can know reasonably for certain. Then you start to look at the different kind of evidence that's being put forward by different groups. So, for example, in the United Kingdom, they've reduced the the degree of severity that they rate the coronavirus has. But then at the same time, you see people in Spain are talking about if you're 65 and you get the disease, you'll have to die. So it's very difficult for us because, we're put in a situation where there are all these different groups of people, none of whom that we can trust at all, right? And they are all giving us information, none of which actually lines up. So then we have to say, okay, as I said to you before we came on air, the whole world at the moment is being told that 2 + 2 = 5. And we're all saying, yes, I do agree that 2 + 2 = 5 because you're not telling us something, right? And where we come down on what we're not being told, really sort of comes down to who we are, what our sort of preconceptions on these things are. So I'm of the opinion that this is probably an escaped biological weapon. And the reason that I think that governments wouldn't be telling us, as I was saying to you before, what's the last thing that governments want is for people in the world to believe that an escaped biological weapon that was designed specifically to kill people is now running rampant in the world. Like it may have been a biological weapon that wasn't sort of fully designed, right? That's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. I don't think this is the end biological weapon. I just think that this is an accident that the Chinese have made, and the reason why you've got governments panicking, because one thing that we know for sure, right? Like if you take on face value what the government is doing at the moment with this lockdown, it seems like they're trying to protect themselves.
Yeah.
They're not working in our interest. They never do, right? So if you've got people in government who are trying to protect themselves, then they're probably trying to protect themselves, not us. That's how I look at it. So their actions are making me consider that this is a legitimate threat. The only alternative to that is that what we are seeing now is the latter stages of a globalist coup. And while we're in lockdown, we're going to get reamed in a really, really brutally unpleasant way. I mean, why else would this be getting done?
Yeah. I just know that we're not being told. And it kind of goes right along with also what Dustin says. I just don't believe we're being told in any way, shape, or form the truth on this. And the panic does not match up. I mean, to say that the DNC, when it first started, the DNC is doing this just to unseat Trump. No, that is not what's just had. That is not, they're taking advantage of that, if you will. And again, I know Dustin would have thoughts on this too. I'm not saying that necessarily we're not getting, this couldn't be a psych op. I'm not saying this is the fact, but I'm also saying I can also say that I won't doubt it, that this isn't, that he may not be behind, not that he's behind it, but that he's not taking advantage of it too. I just don't know and this is their plan, and it's working out perfectly because it's just even us three on here. We really don't know what the frick's going on. And it goes back to Dustin's point, we just can't trust anything they've told us because they've lied to us so many damn times. And so the panic does not meet the criteria for what we're seeing or for what they're telling us, I guess. And Dustin, kind of share that point that you said before, that you kind of just going about your daily life. You're being a COVID idiot, I guess is what some people would call you, right? Because you're going about.
Well, no, look, I agree with what Rational said right there. I mean, this is how I try to look at stuff like this. I try to bullet point everything. I try to put stuff in columns and then be able to play Occam's razor with it. I think in this particular case, we can all agree that either one, this is a virus in which the way the White House and the task force are presenting it, with the symptoms matching up with the flu. I haven't heard them specifically say all the stuff about long-term lung damage. And then it's a giant power grab by all different people in government, 50 different governors, different mayors, our president, different world leaders, and using this as a power grab, or it is something that was either, and I've talked to biologists we had on the show, I don't think it's not like completely man-made in a lab, but something that was either harnessed and released or got out, or it happened in a place like China says, hey, let's use this to our advantage. We got to kill off a bunch of our people anyway. Why not kill the old and the weak? And then the thing started spreading, or they released it on the world. So right now, I just see it as two scenarios. One, it's not that dangerous and they're all using it as a power grab. Or two, it is more dangerous than they're admitting to us, which means our leadership coming from President Trump here in the United States is not being honest. And the dishonesty and the flip-flopping and the contradictions that have come out of the White House over the last 3 weeks, literally changing every 2 minutes, have caused more panic and caused more chaos and caused hoarding. If they came out in the beginning, I think I've heard you say it and others, and said, look, I'm going to level with you guys. This did come out of China.
Yeah.
We don't know how bad this is yet. We are going to do a 30-day lockdown. Go to the store. You've got 3 days to get food. We've got checks coming to all of you so you could pay your rent or mortgage. And we're going to lock down for 30 days. Don't freaking panic. We just got to try to contain this immediately. I think the American people would have actually said, wow, this is serious. If Trump did it in an Oval Office setting and did it in a presidential manner, which we've seen him do.
Yeah.
But right now, even as recent as a couple days ago, Trump's slinging, we're going to wrap this up by Easter. Easter's going to be great resurrection. And then Dr. Fauci goes on CNN the next day with Sanjay Gupta and Don Lemon, and he says, well, Trump just said that to calm people's nerves. That's not really going to happen. So your own doctor, who you trot out all the time, just called you a liar on CNN. And this has happened 50 different times in the last 3 weeks with different points. And it's creating chaos and it's creating panic.
But to your point on that, I mean, this is what I've been saying from the beginning. The slow rollout that we've had, like where they said, okay, you're not going to get your power shut off and your water shut off. Okay, we're going to pay for your rent. Okay, we're gonna do this. Oh, the National Guard is just coming to help take tests and everything. They've had to almost slow roll it out. And now that everything's in place, now all of a sudden you're seeing like we had, we're going to touch on that. Somebody just said in the chat how the Cheyenne Mountains, Janet Doyle said in the Cheyenne Mountains, that's the article actually we're going to touch on right now. We're seeing how they are sending, and I did this on a video 2 days ago called Granite Shadow. So you guys, if you want to check that out, please go back to one of my videos. But we talked on how the Operation Granite Shadow was deployed. This was in place weeks before the public was even notified that anything was really going to happen with lockdowns or anything. They implemented this, and essentially what it is, it's a continuity of government plan where if government officials start getting sick, they're going to whisk them away to secure locations. And General O'Shaughnessy, whatever his name is, he's basically going to be in charge of all of America, and it's going to go into straight up martial law where he is going to be calling the shots, and it is going to be, and they have this plan in place for like if there was a nuclear attack. This is how he's the general for Northcom, Northern Command, and so he's basically the go-to guy. Well, it just rolled out today in an article that we're here. Let me pull it up here. It just rolled out in this article today where it says, and I'll blow that up a little bit so we can see it a little bit better. 1 second.
Yeah, it's the COG, continuity of government.
Yeah,
and this has started leaking out about 10 days ago that there was a plan that came out of the UK that leaked from their version of the CDC. And then the Trump and Pence looked at it. It was an 18-month lockdown plan.
Yeah.
And there were articles 10 days ago about British royalty and prime ministers taken off to bunkers. Now, when some of these guys get sick, I think it's more the case when they announce that they're sick.
Yeah,
and that's the excuse for them to go disappear.
Yeah.
Just like some of these actors and celebrities.
And the CEOs, like this all leading, you take into account all the CEOs that were retiring and stepping away and going off onto their yachts and their safe spaces. What did they all know was coming before? And then in this article, we'll read it here in a second, but basically it also says that Esper has just came out in this article and says that they're not going to be giving updates on the Pentagon anymore, on the officials in the Pentagon that are sick, because they don't want to give our adversaries a sign of weakness. We don't want to show our adversaries that we're weak, which would open up an opportune time to be attacked, which I've been calling from the beginning that, and we've been seeing this with the little articles that are being leaked about they're going to take down the internet, basically, how we're having too much stress on the internet. There's too much, Netflix and all these others. We have to ration the internet now because there's too much strength on it or too much stress on it. I've been saying we are prime sitting targets for a cyber attack. And does that cyber attack come from China, Iran, Russia, or does that cyber attack get blamed on China, Iran, and Russia? And we pull it off on our own people, because we know with 9/11, going back to there, we are not told the full story on 9/11. There was, and I don't know if I'm going to hurt people's butt hurt anybody here, and they're like, no, 9/11 was really that was just all Osama bin Laden. No, it wasn't. No, well, the official story is not even close to the truth. But they pulled that off on us. Are we now witnessing, are we in the midst of the next of what the next big false flag, if you will, that's going to be pulled off. Not saying the virus isn't real like we've been talking about. The virus very well could be real and could be the catalyst, but that's where my mind is spinning. And we are now getting closer than ever to full on locking it down martial law. That's really what I see coming. What are your thoughts on that? I'm going to go to Dustin first and then over to Rational. Do you see that something that could happen?
Well, look, I know you've covered it. I even got, on the Douglas Ducote show, he doesn't really do any conspiracy-leaning stuff, but I got him to watch live Event 201 with his audience and explained it all. And in Event 201, we know that took place 10 weeks before the first reported case in Wuhan, December 29th, 2019. That was Johns Hopkins, Bill Gates, all the same people that are now running the show. And they said in there that they were going to start deciding what was fake news and no one's going to spread fake coronavirus news and we're going to start shutting the internet down and pieces of the internet. Mm-hmm. And now we're seeing it over the last 7 to 10 days. Like Steve mentioned, they slowly start setting the narrative. The internet's going to break. Too many people are watching it. Right. Oh my God. Everybody at Google is sick. So we can't man anything. Holy crap. YouTube sent out notices to all our YouTube accounts 5, 6, 7 days ago.
Yeah.
Due to the coronavirus, we don't have as many people who are monitoring your videos. Therefore, stuff that doesn't violate our terms may get deleted automatically.
Yeah, I know.
So we see them setting the stage. They're even doing this now with power. It's rationing of food. It's going to be and rationing of healthcare services, and then rationing of the internet, and then slowly. And this is what I find to be very strange. This really worried me in the beginning. Normally, about every 10 years, these guys do a snatch and grab, right? Like 9/11, like the 2008 housing crisis, and now. Yeah. You lose a little bit of your rights, just like with the Patriot Act and that kind of stuff, and then you lose money because they raid the Treasury and they rack up debt on us. So this time, though, was weird to me because within a matter of minutes, they had every world leader, every head of state, every government, every CEO, every company all on board, ready to run with this thing. And I said, holy crap. And then immediately, this is unheard of. It was like the cabal took away our bread and circuses, right? Yeah. They collapsed the economy. They're shutting down small business, raiding the stock market. And then they're like, we're shutting Hollywood down. We're shutting music down. So they literally took away the bread and circuses, which has been there by them to entertain us for all these years.
They want us to riot. They almost want to get us to the point where we're rioting so they have a reason then to come in and crack down. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
I always said Obama tried to do it with the Ebola scare. Obama tried to do it with Black Lives Matter. Obama tried to do it with Occupy Wall Street, but they could never get middle-class America out in the streets to fight back. In this case under Trump, they tried to do it with Antifa and the Proud Boys battling, putting out videos on Twitter, but they couldn't get normal people out in the streets.
Right.
In this particular case, in the liberal cities especially, where they are literally letting people out of jail and out of prison, they are saying they're not going to prosecute property crimes. And then these small businesses who are boarded up are just sitting ducks. The looting is going to happen. And I think this time there is going to be a clash because I think Trump's movement, whether it was on purpose or not, was able to build a lot of anger and pushback from the silent majority that there may be. And if food starts disappearing, the supply lines are cut, then neighbors will be killing neighbors within 5 days of running out of food. I mean, you are not going to let your family starve. No. People don't want to believe it, but when it goes primal, it's going to go primal hardcore. It's going to be like the Purge.
I've always said that and I'll get to you 1 second, Rational, too, there's that. I watched Fear the Walking Dead. That was the prequel to The Walking Dead, and the first season was the best. After that, I got stupid. But there was, in the first episode or two, it came out, and one of the people said that, he goes, when society breaks down, it breaks down very quickly. And that is the absolute truth. What is it, the 5-meal rule or whatever it is, where when somebody goes misses 5 meals, all shit hits the fan? Something like that. It's like the 5-meal rule, which I could probably stand and miss a few meals myself. But what are your thoughts on that, Rational?
Well, yes, I think, when there was so much it was covered in there, but yes, I think that when this thing does, well, if it does collapse, it's going to happen very, very quickly, and it's going to be rather unpleasant. And when people panic, what's that line in Men in Black? I'm not a great movie buff or popular culture buff, but it says, people are smart. A person is smart, but people are dangerous, panicky animals, something like that. And I think that's exactly right. And the way that things are going now, you can very easily see that people could start to panic because people are on edge, like
Yeah.
that's just the reality. So if you create a situation where people are inclined to panic, the misinformation, the removal of food, if there's a loss in basic services, because, I've been sort of saying to people around me, don't just stock up on frozen food. There is no guarantee that we're going to have power, especially in a place like Australia, because, despite the fact that we could, produce more power per person than everybody in the world, our governments are idiots who have been sabotaging us for a long time, and they've been shutting down our reliable power plants. So we are at risk of losing power. We've already heard people talking about how there are planned rolled stoppages of power. Why would you do that? What would be the point of doing that?
Yeah.
And going back to an earlier point that you were making about, the possibility of martial law or the police coming in, the military coming in. Yeah, look, in a place like Australia where, between, say, 3 million of us in the city, we've got 7 guns in the hands of law-abiding citizens and all the rest belong to the cops, the criminals and the government.
Right.
Or did I just say the same thing 3 times there? No, actually, the cops are okay, but I don't trust the government or the criminals.
Right.
But, so in Australia, it's a serious issue. We could be shut down by our government in a matter of minutes. We've got no way to defend ourselves. We can't defend ourselves against any threat, foreign or domestic.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's a problem. It is an issue here,
It is totally. So, hey, is this better, guys? Is my volume better? I know some people have been saying, can I turn my volume up? Is that better? Can I somebody give me a 5x5 that my volume is better now for mixture with everyone else? Sorry about that. Yeah, I have set to, okay. So I'll wait for some people to get back to me here. And then I don't know where Dustin went. I hope he didn't leave us here.
Oh, I'm right here.
Oh, you are.
Flashing up. I was flashing up my,
slogan. I like that.
Burn it down, defy, do not comply.
Yeah. Is that better? Yeah. Okay. Yes. Better. Good. Okay.
At the moment, I'm happy to comply. I'm kind of where SJG is at. I'm happy to comply, but I'm very unhappy doing what that compliance requires. And so I'm watching because I think there is a real risk that this could be used to start screwing us, and I'm not getting screwed by anybody.
Well,
I can avoid it. And
I think what I've said is like I'm not necessarily happily complying. I'm grudgingly complying for the next moment, for the next week or two, until the real scenes being coming out. Well, like this is where we don't, and none of us know anything. Like in the sense of like, none of us really know anybody who's got it. I mean, some people do. You said you had your buddy that got it and started bleeding out his butt. Tell about that.
Yeah. So, well,
that's gnarly.
It's not a friend of mine directly, but a good friend of mine, one of his workmates has got it. And he's in a pretty bad way, and he's got a little bit of arse bleed going on as well as, all of the other fun stuff.
Now the toilet paper makes sense.
Hey, Kim, I'm streaming right now.
Yeah, he's going to plug up his butthole with it. But yeah, so, so I don't have any doubt that this.
I hope he got a supply of TP.
Can be quite an unpleasant thing.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't want to get it. So that's why I'm happy to go along, grudgingly is the word. I'm happily going along with this unhappily. Is the way that I put it, which is basically the same thing as you're saying. I just like to say things in a unnecessarily complex way.
I kind of like what Dustin is saying on that. It's like, hey, if this truly is what the deal is, then you need to tell us now. And I almost feel like now that I have everything in place, we could expect to hear that now. Now that they got it all rolled out, Dustin, jump in on this one too. I feel like they might just be telling us what you're saying. You wish they would say. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the onus is on them to tell us. And what's happened here, and I can't speak for Australia or other countries, but what's happened here in our government is, so we've got Trump, running the executive branch, and you've got Congress running around with the legislative branch. You got judges that are doing their own thing. Yeah. And you got 50 governors. And then you got governors like, say, in Florida, like Ron DeSantis, who has been kind of holding back on the draconian stuff. He's done a fairly good job of containing it there without creating a lot of panic and totally destroying people's lives. Because a lot of these people that identify as conservative don't want to see small business destroyed over this.
Right, right.
But right now in the United States, with mayors and with governors and the federal government, you've got 150 different plans of action, 150 different sets of curfews, 150 different quarantine plans. So it's chaos and it's panic. And I just think the president of the United States, who I to be very clear, donated to, campaigned for, went to 12 rallies, and have been very critical of him up for the last 3 years because he's not my God. He's a man who ran for president like anyone else. He ran on a platform. He said he was going to do things, and it's our job to hold his feet to the fire. I personally give him an F on this so far. I don't think that he looks like a leader. When he came out the first day after he told everyone it was just the flu and then went into the Oval Office and gave his speech, he looked like he was going to puke all over himself. It was actually very troubling. And I think what happened at the White House is panic is coming out of there because they're not on the same page. Pence will come out and talk soft, be like, oh, we're going to take in. And Trump's like, oh, fake news, shit. I don't think it's the time to do that at that kind of a press conference. It's on health. This isn't a political rally. And somebody had mentioned, Fauci and Dr. Bricks, the woman, are bad. And yeah, look, I did my research on Dr. Bricks. She was brought into the government after being in the military by Barack Obama. He put her in charge of the Worldwide AIDS Project. She worked hand in hand with Bill Gates. And now she's the lady that Trump brings up and tells me to trust, when Bill Gates is a guy for many years who's been out there talking about population reduction, whose father ran Planned Parenthood. I mean, these are the people that Trump has in charge. And when I see Trump interact with Fauci and them, they don't look like they like each other. I noticed that 3 weeks ago. Well, fire them and put a doctor in charge that you do like. So I just think
I don't know about
point, if they don't come forward and give us the real truth, then I will continue to defy, because I am never going to turn over my rights. I would rather have my ass bleed and die of the virus than give my rights up. Swear to God.
I'm not saying that we should be giving up our rights. I mean, in Australia, we don't really have that many rights. And if I was in America, I can understand the position that you're taking. But for the moment, I'm happy to go along with what the government is saying. But as I say, I'm watching it like a hawk. And in relation to the chaos that's coming out of government bodies, yes, we have that same thing here. We've got a prime minister that says one thing. We've got state governors that are saying something different. So that thing is there. But just to say something about the idea of the government coming out and telling us the truth. What if the truth is that this is an escaped biological weapon, as I was saying before? But imagine the panic that would cause when 7 billion people wake up and realise that what has been released in the world is a virus that is specifically designed to kill people. It may only be a prototype. It may not have been fully developed. I don't think this was an intentional release. I think it's an accidental escape from a biolab.
Yeah.
But imagine the panic that would cause. So, there are valid reasons why the government would not necessarily tell us the truth and the whole truth. Sometimes it's maybe necessary to kind of keep the sheep a little bit docile, because panicky sheep are dangerous sheep. So,
well, tell me when the government has ever told you the truth.
Oh, I don't think they do. I don't trust them either. But that's the thing. I mean, see, that's the problem. None of us trust the government. None of us trust the media. None of us trust the politicians. I like Donald Trump, and I'm a bit of a fan of Donald Trump. But at the same time, I don't believe everything that he tells me, because you would be an idiot to believe everything he tells you. So, we are kind of floundering a little bit. We're just trying to put together the little bits that we can say that we know to be reasonably certain, and then try to create our narrative around that. That's where we're at. And so, I just think that idea, if this was a biological weapon that has been inadvertently released, which is quite a reasonable hypothesis. I have a friend who's a chemist. I was saying this before to SJG, before you came on, and he's been looking into it from a scientific viewpoint. And he's not a scientist who's in that particular field, but he's been looking at the research from scientists who are, and a lot of them are saying that there is a synthetic component to this. Right. So if that is true, then what that means is that this thing is indeed created in or partially created in a lab. It's been manipulated in a lab. So if that's true, I don't think that is information that the government would be giving people, because I think that the reaction to that would be extremely negative, and you're probably going to have a lot more people who die from the resultant panic than you would have dying from the virus.
Yeah. I do
agree that our governments, that they do need to come up with a narrative that is consistent.
Yeah.
Right. And one that if it doesn't tell us the whole truth, that at least gives us enough truth that we can then say, okay, so this is the plan of action that we need to go by, that's going to be the best for, my family and the people around me that I care about, my broader community, my country, and the world. At the moment, we don't have that.
Well, yeah, look, and I just want to say, and I agree with you on all that stuff. I don't agree that the government should not tell us, because it would cause more panic, because I think, if it's spreading, we have a right to know, at least here in the United States. I can't speak for other countries. But what you just said about the bioweapon and stuff, yeah, we have a friend of the show who's a biologist, background in epidemiology. So he looked at it, said something similar to you. And he said, you know, what his fear was that this may have been released by, let's say, China for the like a two-stage terrorist attack.
Yeah.
So you create panic, you cut off supply lines, all that kind of stuff, and then you release what he would believe would be the real killer.
That's kind of what I think.
Which would be a hybrid between. He said, so this has a 3 to 4 times higher contagion rate than the flu, so it's very contagious. You blend that with something like H5N1, which has a 60% mortality rate, where this is looking like it's between 0.5 and 1.5%. But you could blend the two of those, release something like that, and then you've got a huge problem. If that's the case, and they know that, China should have been nuked on day one.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
No, and see, that's what I've been saying too.
You smack China hard if that's the truth.
And that's kind of what I've been thinking is a very good possibility too, is that this is, and maybe that's also why we're seeing certain people with different symptoms than other people. That's why some of these symptoms, like, could have been the first phase, right, where it's all not that big of a deal, where I literally think, I still think, and me and my wife were talking about this, I think back in January and February, I feel, now maybe I just have the flu bug going around, because I know some people thought they had it and it was just a flu, but dang it, all of my symptoms matched. All of my symptoms matched up, except for bleeding out my anus. But I agree with what Dustin just said too, is that this could easily be a two-step process, and maybe that's also why maybe the second phase is already upon us and we just don't know it yet, and that's why everyone is still locking down and going into freak out, because some of these other symptoms don't seem to match up. Where these, like, you have a total lung deterioration, heart deterioration, neurological problems, bleeding out your asshole, things like that. I mean, that's like, maybe that is part of the second phase and nobody even knows it yet because it's blending together. But I've definitely thought that's a possibility, that you soften them up with the first round, then you release the second round on them. And
there's also another possible explanation.
No, there's only those two possible explanations.
So like, say that I go to the supermarket and I grab a can that somebody's grabbed who's got coronavirus, and I get, a couple of little micromolecules of this virus into my system, right? Whereas, if I'm having sex with someone that's got it, I'm getting millions of it pumped into my body at the time. And when you get that exponential rate, this is a
pumped into your body.
My chemist friend was sort of pointing out to me. So if you get a small amount of the virus when you initially get infected, then your body's got a lot more time to start to fight it. So your symptoms could be a lot less. Whereas if you get a lot of it, because it's like a husband or a wife or something that's got it, and so that you suddenly have millions of this macromolecule, this virus affecting your body or entering your body at the same time, then it makes it much harder for your body to fight. So the symptoms are going to be much more severe. So that, just at a practical level, there are reasons why there may be variations in the symptoms. Plus, some people are going to have an immune system that is already predisposed towards being able to fight this disease, and some people are going to be predisposed towards succumbing to it. Because if you think of the virus as being basically a machine, a system molecular machine, right? It has to actually be able to fit with something in your body to start working on your body to attack it, right? Some people aren't going to have things that are going to allow that virus, that machine, to attach, to start doing damage to the body, and some people are. So there is just that sort of pragmatic thing that is there to consider as well, in terms of why there's such wildly different outcomes of getting this disease. So not everyone is going to get the arse bleed, and that's
right.
Hey, let me just throw this out there just to confuse things even further. So let's say it is that case, that it was some kind of a bioweapon or used as a bioweapon by China. Our government, let's say the United States, knows this, and this is why they're doing all these things. Well, then Trump, I will throw out, has failed completely, because he hasn't locked down the whole country. He hasn't done a martial law. He hasn't forced people to stay at home. Because in my frickin' town, my mayor said, look, I can't enforce these things, and we're not enforcing them, and people are out all over the place. So then Trump has failed at that level. So what is it? Because not everyone is on lockdown. There is no mandatory lockdown from the federal government. So then if we know that it's a virus spreading, it's going to kill all these people, China did it, then why are we not completely locked down?
So here's another thing to confuse
I will throw this out here too. We have a program in the United States. It's called the Border Crossing Visa. It's one of the most corrupt visas in circulation today. 10 million of these cards are in circulation. Mexicans could come over the border for 30 days at a time. They have to supposedly stay within 25 miles of the border, but it's not biometric and they don't check it. That program has not stopped. They're coming through the ports of entry every day, 10 million. While in certain states, we're told to lock down, we're told not to come out of our house, but 10 million Mexicans coming from a country whose Medicare system we made fun of for many years are allowed to flow freely back and forth. And the border and immigration is supposed to be one of Trump's big issues. You think he would have suspended that on day one.
So let me respond to that. So wait, I thought he did then now. I thought he did shut down the southern border. You're saying this is still...
He did not. Yeah,
this
he
is
did
still
not
in
shut
effect.
down the border crossing visa. That is completely in the works today. It's still going on.
How do you verify that? Not to say I don't trust you, but how would I verify that?
Well, I'll get you the information showing you that it's not shut down. But Center for Immigration Studies, which is the foremost think tank on immigration issues, one of my friends there is a fellow, Jessica Vaughn. She's the director of policy studies. I've known her since 2006. She's on Fox all the time, Breitbart, everywhere else. As recent as yesterday, I texted her. She comes on the Douglas Ducote show all the time and said, hey, have they shut it down yet? And she said, no, they did not. And we were told, and I'm trying to confirm this, so we got this information from a Border Patrol agent that we met when we were working on some of our border documentary. I got to confirm this with a couple more sources, that the Border Patrol at the checkpoints that do have standard issue oxygen tank masks are being told not to wear them because it will scare the tourists away.
Are you kidding me?
That's what we heard. I got to confirm it with two more sources, but that is what we were told.
Wow. That's insane. All right, so let's talk about this article. I've been having it. I realized I should have switched it while we were talking about the other stuff. Anyways. But I want to blend in what we've all been talking about when we read this. So this one says, "Run for the hills. Pentagon sends team to mountain bunkers as pandemic preparations go into full swing." The U.S. Northern Command has sent teams of essential staff deep underground to wait out the COVID-19 pandemic. On the surface, more than 1 million grunts won't be quite as cocooned. Air Force General Terrence O'Shaughnessy heads up the U.S. Northern Command as well as the Northern Aerospace Defense Command, a joint U.S.-Canadian operation that monitors the skies over the North America for missile and airborne threats. Earlier this week, O'Shaughnessy, I don't like his name, told reporters via Facebook that some of his watch teams would be moved from their usual command center at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado to a number of hardened underground bunkers. Now, here's the question I have. Why in the hell are they feeling at this point the need to move people into an underground bunker that we will soon find out? Well, it says right here, one of these facilities in Cheyenne Mountain Bunker Complex, a warren of tunnels buried under 2,000 feet of granite, and the operation for this is called Operation Granite Shadow, are sealed behind doors that could could withhold a 30 megaton nuclear explosion. We're putting the person who is effectually in command of running the government, if this plan is or exercise or operation is fully implemented, we're putting him in a bunker, solid granite mountain bunker, and this is just a simple little, thing that simple little disease or simple little virus that we're going to be able to shake by Easter time. Does that these pieces don't fit when we're taking into account, like everything we said before, the CEOs that quit, all of the leaders that have quit, and have went into hiding, politicians and so on and so forth. How does this fit that we're being told the whole truth? I mean, anytime somebody wants to interrupt me here, feel free. But to me, it feels kind of insane. Did you want to say something, Dustin? You look like you had a thought there.
No, did you just say, what did it say about a nuke? It says that it could withstand an explosion?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, guys, on Easter, what we're going to do, and this is going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. One of the best, most beautiful bigly mushroom clouds you've ever seen. So great. To end the coronavirus, COVID-19, fantastic. 1% of us will survive, but what we're going to do is we're going to go down in the bunker and we're going to explode this thing. So stay in your home. It's going to be great. Just comply. Don't go to the park or anything. Stay away from each other within 6 feet while we explode and destroy everything. It's going to be gorgeous, beautiful, tremendous. One of the best explosions you've ever seen. Bigly, beautiful explosion. That's what I feel. That's what it sounded like. That's what it sounded like is coming, man. That's pretty scary.
Okay. Our dedicated, and for the record, we'll get back to that. I'll get back to that. I wouldn't say he gets an F on the way he's handled this, like you said earlier, But I
I
definitely
like
have
to
seen
go to the extremes, man.
I definitely think he's had better days and less good days. But I've seen him actually, some things he said and done, I'm like, I've cheered him on, and other times I've shook my head like, oh, Trump. And when we say this isn't because we hate him, and we're not saying we're not going to support him. We're saying this because we're like, we need to keep our government account. We can't just be ball lickers and bootlickers of just because they're our guy. We still have to call them to account when we see them doing stuff we think that is off. And so I think that Rational and Dustin would agree with that, is that we're not saying we hate him. We're just saying these are some things that don't make sense, and we're going to call them out when we say they don't make sense. Am I speaking for you when I say that, or would you not
I'll
even?
just say I don't hate him any more or less than I hated Obama. So that's just my feeling on the situation at this point. Look, I'm disappointed in Trump on a lot of things. And right now, one of the pieces that came out of the $2.2 trillion spending bill is a $500 billion pot of money that now he's arguing with Congress that only him and pedophile Steve Mnuchin are going. And Steve Mnuchin is creepy. He should not be allowed to be at the podium. He looks like he hangs out with Paul Rubens on the set of Pee-wee's Playhouse, and they fondle children together. But Steve Mnuchin and him are going to decide where the money goes, and Congress gets no oversight. Look, I hate all these people in Congress, but we're supposed to have 3 equal branches of government. And I think there should be oversight, even though we know they steal the money anyway. But in principle, we have this system. And now what they're talking about is literally giving bailout money to companies like Boeing and others in exchange for stock. So now our country is getting into the business of nationalizing companies and buying stock with not even our tax dollars. Credit cards run up on our great grandchildren.
Yeah.
And now our country is getting in the business of nationalizing companies. Small business in the next 3 months, if this continues, is dead. And they employ 70% of the people in this country.
Yeah.
It seems like they're concentrating supply chains underneath Walmart and Amazon right now, which were supposed to be enemies of President Trump. We were supposed to go after them and break up their monopolies, and we didn't. Jeff Bezos is one of the most dangerous cats on the planet, the richest guy, not because of that, but because he controls 50% of the supply chain in the United States, and he has NSA and CIA contracts housing all of our spy grid data. And then he's got Washington Post, where he could disseminate all the information he takes off the grid. So this is crazy. And Bezos, don't let it fool you when President Trump attacks him as Washington Post Bezos or Amazon Washington Post. Bezos has business relationships with Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner is basically running that White House. His nickname in the White House is the Secretary of Everything. So right now, I just don't trust anything or anyone. And again, they haven't been honest, so why should we believe them? Why should we comply when the reaction, we all agree, does not seem to match at least what the White House's narrative of the virus is?
Yeah.
That's what's freaking me out on this thing.
Yeah, that's very well said. All right, let's read this article a little more. Our dedicated professionals of NORAD and NORTHCOM Command and Control have left their homes, say goodbye to their families, and isolated from everyone to ensure they can stand to watch each and every day to defend our homeland, O'Shaughnessy said. He also said that personnel sent underground will share the bunker with other members of the military, but he is not at liberty to discuss who is moving there. Another team has been sent to undisclosed location, Shaughnessy said. O'Shaughnessy, whatever your freaking name is.
O'Shaughnessy.
O'Shaughnessy, okay. O'Shaughnessy. That was really giving me trouble. Thanks, O'Shaughnessy. Installations like Cheyenne Mountain are integral to the U.S. government plan to survive a doomsday scenario. Oh, and by the way, there's a comet that we just saw, a comet C-19 that's supposed to be passing here in the next couple days. NASA just saw. It also kind of makes me wonder if we're about ready to be hit by a comet or something. But in the event of an existential threat to the U.S., a nuclear attack, for instance, or the Wuhan flu, the president and his officials, as well as contingent of the political, military, and civilian leaders, would be immediately evacuated to 4 secure facilities to run the country from deep underground. These facilities are Cheyenne Mountain, the Presidential Emergency Operations Center under the White House, Raven Rock Mountain Complex in Pennsylvania, and Mount Weather Emergency Operations Center in Pennsylvania. While the ongoing COVID-19 crisis has not triggered a mass exodus from Washington, it has prompted leaders to take steps to ensure they remain combat ready. They always are talking about the enemy. They keep saying this in all the things, the invisible enemy, we're militarily responding, the combat, we're ready. That also makes me wonder, why are you trying to program our psyche with military, enemy, combat, military? Why are you trying to program our mind with that? That I definitely believe is an intentional thing they're doing. But anyways, to remain combat ready. After admitting that the U.S. military readiness could be affected by the pandemic, Defense Secretary Mark Esper stated on yesterday, that the Pentagon would stop publishing, a couple days ago, the Pentagon would stop publishing precise details of COVID-19 cases within its ranks to avoid revealing weakness to American adversaries. If they're telling us that, that's because I believe they have some inside information that our adversaries are taking note of our panic. I mean, how could you not? I mean, it's everywhere, right? And this is a prime time opportunity if they want to do something to try to pull it off. Now, some of, how'd you say his name? O'Shaughnessy? O'Shaughnessy, thank you. O'Shaughnessy's forces head to the hills to wait out the pandemic in hermetic isolation. Millions more on the surface will not have the same luxury. Army engineers have already been deployed to New York to scout locations for field hospitals, as the Empire State accounts for more than 1/3 of the country's 112,000 cases of the illness. With the crisis deepening, the U.S. military appear to be adopting this is the other thing that kind of freaks me out, adopting an all-hands-on-deck approach, both on the ground and under. Though the U.S. military is forbidden from carrying out law enforcement duties on American soil, not completely true, though, under some of the, martial law and some of the emergency orders, they actually can under certain circumstances. Trump signed an executive order on Friday authorizing the call-up to 1 million reserve and retired Army, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard personnel. 1 million. These reservists could be called upon to assist, so they're not actually militarily, controlling us. They're just assisting the civil authorities in responding to the pandemic. It's semantics, for crying out loud.
It's normal.
As the nearly 10,000 national troops already deployed have been doing, on Saturday, Esper announced a modified law that would provide federal funding for states looking to deploy more of these troops. On top of this, 2 hospital ships have been sent to assist in treating of the patients in New York and California. So when we read that and we see what is actually happening and the anesthetizing that has been going on, it leads me to just really get a little more concerned with this whole, don't worry, they're just there to help you. They're not going to hurt you. You just need to believe us. You're not going into martial law. Don't listen to the sirens. Don't listen to them, guys. Don't listen to them.
I do the sound effects.
Don't listen to them, guys. We're not. You guys just need to keep on just laughing it up. Life's good. Turn on a little Netflix, right? Make sure you have a little toilet paper. You got to make sure. We're gonna give this virus the old.
You fit them all into one sentence, mate.
I know. We're gonna give this virus the old knockout punch. It's okay. I'm having fun with my soundboard. If you guys can't tell, I got a little soundboard going. So
no, we didn't know. We couldn't see that.
Anyways, so I kind of some final thoughts here. I wouldn't mind kind of wrapping this up here a little bit. But final thoughts. I'll go to you, Rational, then I'll come over to Dustin.
Final thoughts. Look, to be honest with you, I'm the thing that I'm saying to the group of friends that I've got around me that I care about and my family is I'm not expecting the zombie apocalypse, but I'm preparing for it, and I want you to as well. We're actually making plans for if we have to do a runner, because if this thing does go horribly pear-shaped, I want to be prepared to get out. I don't want to get stuck in a city and just watch corpses piling up. And while I don't expect that to happen, it is a possibility. There is no doubt that we're being lied to. It's the lie that is the issue, because that is the thing that is the sole determining factor of what's going on here. And none of us know what that lie is. None of us know what that missing ingredient is, right? And I just think that whatever the lie that we're being told is, it's almost certainly not necessarily going to be in our vested interest to have that lie being told to us, because that's really the way that our governments work. I'm not used to having a government that works in my interest. So if they were doing it for my interest, I would be surprised.
Right.
Because that's not what they do. I don't think it's a time for us to be panicking, but I think it's a time for us to be preparing just in case things go a little bit pear-shaped.
Pear-shaped, is that what you said?
That's pretty much about it, really. And the other thing too, like global economic collapse is almost guaranteed, I think, to lead to a little bit of civil conflict,
Yeah.
i.e., potential for war. China have been very hawkish in our area. I mean, it's not such a worry for you guys, but if China, because it does seem as though they're having a new outbreak of the coronavirus, and they've had some fighting going on in some of their districts, as your video SJD the other day. So if that kind of thing is going on, China are going to clamp down on the civil unrest. One of the ways that they can do that is to find an external foe and start attacking.
Yeah.
So the risk of war is greater now than it was, I think, 2 weeks ago. And so, I said to you before we came on air, I thought, there's maybe a 1 in 100 chance that this is going to go pear-shaped. I'm now thinking it's more like a 10% chance of it going pear-shaped, and the numbers just slowly clicking up, because whatever's going on in China, although we can't trust anything that anybody's telling us about China, I think we can be reasonably safe in saying that whatever's going on in China isn't good.
Yeah. Right.
So, I'm going to have to get in touch. I've got some Chinese friends. I'm going to have to get in touch with them and see what they know about what's going on over there. But yeah, it just so, stay safe, don't panic, but just prepare, guys. That's what I'd say, everybody that's watching.
What about you, Dustin? What are some of your final thoughts?
I would just say, look, in reference to that article, the last thing you touched on there was Secretary Esper talking about they're going to protect us. Look, guys, for anyone who's even new to this and started paying attention to politics because you liked what President Trump or candidate Trump had to say, we just spent the last 3 years lifting the veil on a lot of what many of us knew about for many years that have paid attention for a long time, that the only foreign adversary we, the American people, have to worry about is our own government is a foreign adversary. These guys hate us. They want to abort your children. They want to do forced sex change, chemical sterilization to your kids. These are the guys that now tell us they love us. They want to stick vaccines in us. They want to give us medicines. They want us to quarantine because they love us. They love us.
Right.
These people do not love you.
Right.
As soon as you realize it, look, it feels like when President Trump ran, to a lot of people, they were awakening from the Matrix. You had all the memes about the red pill and all that stuff. Well, as someone who's paid attention longer and has read a lot of history and has followed geopolitics, I feel like we're in the quadruple layered Matrix, okay? And as soon as you I'm telling you, it takes the weight off your shoulders. You don't have to guess anymore. If you just say, President Trump hates me, it all actually makes sense. All of it falls into line. There's no guesses, no conspiracy theories. You just say, look, he's a guy like the rest of them who ran, he's in power. And also say to yourself, Hillary Clinton, why did she tank the election? Oh, well, maybe Trump was supposed to be there. And maybe he's a useful idiot, or maybe he's the snake that he told the poem about the whole time. I don't know. But what I would say is this. When the looting breaks out this time, I am done being a responsible American. I am getting my Air Jordans once and for all. I'm getting my flat screen TVs. I will be there looting with them. And I tell you this, any free money the government's going to give out, which is really not free because it's just debt and it's fake money anyway, they're going to collapse the system on us. Sign up for every welfare program you can. Get anything you can get out of these people because it's your money. You paid into the system anyway. And get your TV and get your Air Jordans. This complex society is crashing down, brother.
So I have to just say, the opinions of the guests may not reflect those necessarily of the host.
Come on, Steve, you want those Air Jordans, man? I've been sitting around my whole life since Hurricane Katrina, going, man, I didn't get my Air Jordans, and now
it's not fair. Why can't I go and loot something?
I think that.
And I will also say there's a couple of neighbors here in my neighborhood that I've been eyeing for many years. They look quite tasty. So I'm going to be firing up that barbecue pit soon.
Oh, yeah, the long pork. You got to love that. But just in terms of the government hating us, I think the thing that concerns me more is that they love us, but they love us in the way that Nietzsche's noble bird loves the lamb. In other words, they look at us as a meal. They don't hate us. They don't want us gone. They just want us to be used to their advantage, and then they want us gone.
I don't know. Honestly, I am not quite as far as Dustin on this, but he has been red pilling me white, whatever you want to say, on some stuff, dude. You have been. I'm not quite there with thinking that he's. the gold pill, whatever it is. I still want to trust and believe that because I felt that way when he got elected. I was like, this doofus is getting elected. And over the last few years, I've actually started to kind of really like him and like a lot of what he says and does. I will say, we're gonna find out. The cards, I believe, on this one are gonna get revealed. If you're having an open mind and you're not just a lemming that's like, oh, whatever, not like your little trust in the plan, your memes you make all the time of like, I don't know if you have any of those you can pop up. I mean, that could be the thing. I don't know, and I hope it isn't true, but I wanna believe that there's somebody out there that he is different and that he truly is fighting against the deep state and not part of it. But we're going to know. I mean, there's going to be, if you have your eyes open, I feel like we're going to know the truth here coming up shortly.
Yeah, look, I hope I'm wrong, honestly. And I really do. And, but that's the only thing. And I've thought this through for the last 3 years that makes any sense. So that's just what I go with. I'm a pretty negative guy to begin with, but as far as this stuff goes, I just look at it and I go, man, it's the only thing that makes sense. So I'm going to run with it, man.
Yeah.
Occam's razor here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And that would be cool. So, I mean, that would be the best. That would be the best.
One thing that Trump has done, I think, is to expose to a hell of a lot more people just how vile and corrupt the globalist elite, as I like to call them, are. So I think that is something we can look at and say, well, maybe he's not a part of that globalist cabal. But at the same time, under Donald Trump, globally, freedom has been almost completely eradicated. And from what I understand of what's going on in the US, there is a concerted effort to stomp on the freedom of everybody in the United States. So, and that's one thing about Trump that bothers me. He has exposed some of the deep state, but freedom is almost, there is almost nothing left of the free world. So I kind of...
Yeah.
And I just want to add this point on that, because it's something that I've been saying on different streams for probably like 2.5 years now. Is under Trump, I would say the greatest thing he's done is he has lifted the veil on treason, sedition, criminality, and corruption. But I also always said that if those things go unpunished, then all we've done here in the United States is normalize treason, sedition, criminality, and corruption. In fact, we've proven to the people, and they'll accept it, that there's a two-tier justice system. And at the same time that we are no longer a constitutional republic, we're a banana republic. Now, I'm not saying that all happened, that Trump did that. One of the mistakes we make in our country is we got on board. This was Trump a year and a half ago at the State of the Union when he said that we would never be a socialist nation. That was very disingenuous. It would have been a great line if he was debating FDR back in the 30s or 40s. But our country since 1913, I'll even go back to Lincoln. Lincoln took away a lot of states' rights. Centralized power under the federal government. Go to 1913, we had Woodrow Wilson, income tax, IRS, the Federal Reserve. Move to FDR. FDR ushers in Social Security, 100 government agencies. Move it up to LBJ with a sham civil rights bill that set up welfare, Medicare, Medicaid. So our country has been, at the very least, crony corporatist, where the political class is in bed with the business class, was what you're seeing exactly happening under Trump. On steroids right now. We've had elements of socialism. And right now, if he starts using the money that he's taking out of the Fed to start buying up stock in companies and nationalizing them under the Federal Reserve, despite everyone who wants to believe the Q stuff, that Trump is destroying the Fed, he's strengthening the Fed right now, that we are already living through socialism and communism and cronyism here in the United States. People say, well, that's going to happen on the other side of this. And I would argue it's been going on here for 150 years. So that's the big secret. But unless you read history and understand what all these bumper stickers mean, then you don't really know. We've been in it for a long time. I truly believe, whether this thing is man-made, a bioweapon, whatever it is, or just a power grab, our country, America, is in decline. There's a cycle of societies. We're a complex society. When pieces of society become too complex, whether it be military, banking, education, it will eventually collapse. And I think we're starting to see the beginning of the collapse of the United States. That could run 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. But no matter how much technology we have today, there's going to be a lot of people that die in the collapse anytime throughout history. That's just how I see this from a serious standpoint.
It's not just the US, that's the entire West. The only thing that you have to say about that is population demographics. we've stopped breeding. Westerners have stopped breeding. Right? When you do that, your culture dies. You know, it's just one of those things. If you're not having babies, you're not keeping your culture going. So, you know, we are screwed because we're not being screwed enough, it seems.
Yeah, no, 100%
Blunt about
agree.
it. And so things are bad now. However you look at it, you know, like even if we do come out the other end of this, I think we're going to be a hell of a lot different than we went in, and whatever we come out as is probably not going to be sustainable either, unless we have a massive cultural shift. And one thing we have to do above anything else is actually get people to vote who know what the bloody hell they're voting for. That's one of my grievances with Australia. In our system, everybody has to vote, compulsory voting. Most of the people that vote are Muppets. I don't know what it's like in the United States, but we have not been keeping our politicians accountable for a long time. You know, the whole idea of the Western system of government is open and accountable. Well, we don't have open and accountable government anymore because no one gives a stuff what's going on because bread and circuses. Maybe the loss of bread and circuses might be a good thing. Some people might start to look now, but I don't know. I think we're too far gone. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, but you know, and this is what I would say to people when I would talk about this a couple of years ago a lot when I was doing streams every night, not producing other people's stuff that's less dark than what I talk about. You know, oh, you're blackpilling us, and I said, look, I don't really. It doesn't really get me down because you could have been alive during the revolution. That wasn't necessarily a fun time to live through. You could have been alive during the Civil War here. That wasn't a fun time to live through. You could have been alive when we were burning witches at the stake. So, I mean, throughout history, there's bad things that happen all the time. So I don't really look at it as, oh, why do I have people say, why do we have to be alive during this? Well, you would have been alive during something else. All I say is just chill and trust the plan, dude. Trust the plan.
Oh, that's harsh. That is harsh. Yeah, I have to say on that Q too. I think Q on balance of probability is almost certainly a load of crap.
Yeah, I don't. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around that one, and I got called.
Hey, look, when I see those indictments get unsealed and Steve gets arrested, then I'll believe this.
All right. Well, guys, on that note, thank you guys for hanging out with me and giving me your thoughts. I love for one thing, this whole thing is bringing a lot of people's different thoughts to the surface and giving us a lot of things to think and talk about. But I appreciate everybody who hung out in DLive and for all the YouTube people that hung out the whole time. If you guys, do you still have your channel, Dustin? You still have it?
Yeah, I'm gonna start streaming again. I used to stream with another guy for about a year, then I started producing with Doug. But you could go to YouTube. It's Freedom Force TV, and then that's where I'm gonna start doing some streams, some stuff on my own. So my own thoughts. Doug is good. You know, he reaches a military, veteran, police officer audience. You know, and he's got his own opinions. Him and I don't agree. I mean, we agree on the problems, but we don't obviously agree on all the solutions. None of us do, but that's what makes, you know, conversations and debate good. I mean, we're never going to get to the answers unless we're willing to sit down and have conversations and be adults about it and talk about it.
Yeah. So Freedom Force TV, everyone, if you guys could go over there, Freedom Force TV, and look up Dustin and subscribe to his channel. And then Rational Wrongthink also. I think most of my people are here are following him, but Rational, have you gotten around to setting up a DLive yet? You need to do that, dude.
Well, I'm on your DLive, but I don't use it or anything. Look, I'm not using it personally. I just do the odd.
You should do a DLive. You should do a DLive and just stream your own thoughts, dude. You're very articulate and for Australian and very smart, which is weird, right? Because
I'm smart.
You're pretty smart for an Australian, and that's not a normal thing.
I'm happy doing what I do, just jumping onto other people's streams and on my own. I'm lazy, mate. I can't be bothered doing my own particularly. So I'll just do the odd parody and just have a bit of fun. And when I want to do the serious stuff, mate, I'll just.
Speaking of which,
let me on so I can talk.
Why I still have you guys here. Let me play you this. This is just the, let me see if I can get it to go.
Everybody was kung flu fight.
Yeah, did you hear that one yet? Okay, so this is definitely not, I was doing this with my sister, and so it's not at all ready, but let me see if it'll play here. Hang on. Of course, it doesn't want
While
to.
you're doing that, Dustin, is that the link that I put in the? Can you see the chat on YouTube?
Okay.
I think I put up your link.
This is totally my first take, so it's not good yet.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that you, Rona? Everybody was kung flu fighting, 'cause that virus is fast as lightning. In fact, it is a little bit frightening. But we are fighting with perfect timing. Was it from a funky wet market, from a funky Chinatown, where they were chopping up civets, bats and dogs getting chopped down? Or from a secret Chinese lab, nasty viruses on slabs, from an accidental slip? Now the world's on a sinking ship, everybody was kung flu fighting.
Oh, that's the first. That's my first little. You guys got to hear that one. And then, do you guys want to hear what my staying alive one? This one here, if I can get it to.
Yeah, you got to give us a listen to that one.
Okay, let me see if I can get it to play here.
You can tell by the way that I wear my mask, I'm a one man, no time for cops. You and me might disagree on the coronavirus legality, but you be safe when you sneeze. Point that sneeze into your sleeve. Let's not shake hands or elbow bump. We'll do it just like Donald Trump. COVID-19 will the coronavirus won't get me, I'm staying alive, staying alive. COVID-19 will the coronavirus won't get me, I'm staying alive, staying alive. Ooh, ooh.
That's just so you guys know. I'll play the rest here, but it goes, COVID-19 Wuhan coronavirus won't get me. I'm staying alive, staying alive. So here we go. Okay, so did you guys hear that? Did that come through?
Came through to me.
Okay. Did you guys hear that?
Oh yeah, people are hearing it.
Funny to me for some reason. I'm not sure why. Your music doesn't play well for me.
It didn't. You didn't hear it?
Oh, I could hear it a little bit, but it sounded really sort of distorted. It was coming through really, really, really thin. I don't know
Okay.
why.
But yeah, so those are my new. I'm going to do a medley of that one, and then I'm also doing. Then I'm going to do the Freak Out one. Freak Out. It's going to be my disco mix. You know that one. Coronavirus. It's gonna get you now. Something I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. So
Hey,
it'll
maybe
be
you
good.
could ship those off to O'Shaughnessy. He could play those down in the bunker.
I will.
They're partying down there.
Oh man, that's funny. All right, guys. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out, and Dustin, again, thank you so much for being here.
Hey,
and
thank you for
Rational.
having me, man.
Yeah, no, I love your thoughts, dude, and I love that. Yeah, I love your passion, and so we're gonna make you guys regulars, as Rational's a regular, and you, and you know, we were gonna do the other guys today, but they just had other stuff going on, so I'm gonna get inside and go talk to the wife and watch Ozark. By the way, it's talking of Netflix. If you guys haven't streamed your Ozark, the new season's out on Ozark, and it's good, so you guys should go.
Oh, the whole new season's out?
Yeah, the new season's out. It's pretty
good.
good, man. You'll have to go watch it.
Did you watch Tiger King?
Yes, I did. That was insane, man.
I swear to God, I was watching Tiger King because everyone's home watching it. It's like what everyone's watching on the coronavirus vacation. And I was going, you know, if you guys only knew, this is actually completely representative of our leadership in Washington, D.C. It's basically the same thing going on in Washington was going on in Tigerland.
Yeah.
That guy is the crazy. The best guy though is the cult leader.
Yeah, I know.
Doc.
A Doc, yeah. Oh my gosh.
my God, that guy. He keeps his cool the whole time, but he's
I know,
like,
and he's got all the chicks, and they're just like he's got these
all the
hot
chicks
chicks,
living
and
in
he's just like,
different houses.
what the hell? Oh, it's crazy,
it's
man.
insane.
It's crazy.
I don't
Craziest
have
show ever,
Netflix. I've got no idea what you guys are talking about.
Oh, that's because you're Australian, and you need to like.
It's basically it's about the exotic, like roadside exotic zoos here in the United States, and focuses on this one guy who's like a hillbilly, country gunslinging,
Gay.
meth head,
Gay.
guy that like he's battling. It's funny with all the people that have trolls on YouTube. It's like he's battling with this woman who's a psycho who looks and sounds like Hillary, who runs this charity where she rescues tigers. But she actually like puts these guys out of business, takes their tigers, and she's doing exactly what they did. Like
Yeah.
running these little roadside zoos for the tigers. It's like exactly what they're doing.
I know.
I don't know. It got
hilarious.
my mind off of politics for a couple hours.
Yeah.
It was entertaining.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, now that we've
Plus-
got no sport, that sucks, doesn't it? I'm missing the sport, I must admit. I'm a bit of
Yeah.
a sports
Well,
junkie. It gives you something to do that you turn your brain off and just chillax.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Plus, this guy turned me into a homosexual and a meth head now because I liked him so much. So,
That's a bummer.
so now I'm gonna go smoke some meth and
And on
blow
that,
my
note,
neighbor, if you know what I mean.
on that note,
That may not be coronavirus in your case then. No.
all right, guys. Well, hey,
I knew you were gonna say that.
all right, guys. Everyone, thank you for hanging out. It's been SJG Perspective without fear or animus. You guys have a great night, and we'll talk to you later.
Without fear of animals.
Hang on, guys.